Nuns in Baltimore are hoping to hit a home run.
They let us not only on the red carpet, but in the spotlight. And guess who's behind me? Miss Jessica Alba.
Also, Father James Cunningham, who says he's the president of the Francesca Maxime fan club, which I like him so much. He's over at Holy Name. He's at the
just right down the street.
Yeah, so that's my parish, and so I'm like, yes.
And there are resources out there for people who want to learn how to love better, if you will.
Am I kind of getting that a little bit right?
Take this apron, for instance. You can put it on.
It sounds like he needs maybe a computer and maybe some other social networking tools.
So many people that want to take these paparazzi shots.
Why did Tito choose watercolors?
That's really what it is a handbook for real life and for real Catholic moms.
Well, he is probably best known as the founder of Domino's Pizza. And you are not a priest, and you're, you know, a lot of people, you say, even sometimes people think that you might be, but you're not. And that's why the Brooklyn Museum was smart. They provided some magnifying glasses. And what do you think the impact of this will be to people in Miami?
Back at the Tribeca Film Festival on the red carpet with Colin Farrell for the premiere of Ondine.
It says, to whoever stole my air conditioners, you are going to need them.
We are here back at the Tribeca Film Festival on the red carpet with Colin Farrell for the premiere of Ondine. This is a bit of a mythical kind of movie, also set in Ireland. His co-star in this movie, Alicia Vikander, actually has to be around live fish for a lot of the movie as she is pulled out of the ocean. He doesn't talk so much about that, but he does talk about what it's like to be a parent in this movie and also what it's like to sort of swim against the tide. We've seen you with a lot of, you know, badass roles and a lot of action roles, and this one is obviously more of a parental, you know, role, caretaking kind of a role.
Beautiful, really gentle, you know, he wasn't, he had no self-pity, and it's something I respect in people that I can't say I share that virtue myself.
But you have that kind of pull yourself up by your bootstraps and keep on going mentality and charge about life.
Wearing bootstraps.
Well,
I don't know. We all, I think, do our best, and sometimes, you know, we succeed or fail to greater or lesser measures.
And the mythic nature of this film and the ethereal nature of it.
Beautiful, it's gorgeous. Yeah, it was the pain of the mundanity of life sometimes.
Well, it is highly likely that Colin Farrell delivers another enchanting performance here in Ondine at this year's Tribeca Film Festival. For Film Slate Magazine, I'm Francesca Maxime on the red carpet.
Sherry Schachter, Director of Bereavement Services at Calvary Hospital, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Here on Currents. Now, we know that Calvary does advertise in the tablet, which is, this is last Sunday's version. And one of the things in here as well is our own Dr. Stephen Garner. He did a little column here about sort of depression over the holidays and people that sort of feel overwhelmed and have a lot of trouble sometimes dealing with it. And that's what we're here to talk a little bit about, is how do you deal with the holidays? I'm going to be driving home to Boston. I don't love everybody in my family the way that I probably should, because sometimes they drive me nuts. But, you know, I have found ways over the years to sort of deal with that. How do you think people, you know, what's your advice to deal with some troubled relatives, if you will?
Well, I think the first thing you have to realize is holidays.
So how would they take control? Are there things they can do now before Thanksgiving or before Christmas or New Year's or whatever it is, as well as things that they can do during the actual day when they're with the people?
Absolutely. I like to think this is what I'm not going to do.
So you have to make your own decision. That's your control part. So
make your own decision, but also consult with family members.
Okay.
I want to communicate that to the rest of the family.
Okay, so communicate. Then that's your action item. So that takes you out and then says, this is what we're going to do. I've considered all of the above, myself and you included, and this is the plan.
And also have not only plan A, but
what about people that have a hard time sort of saying no and they feel like they're obliged, and perhaps the thing is supposed to go from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. Can they just say, well, I'll be there from 2 to 4 and that's it?
Well, one of the
it's okay if you're going to.
Absolutely.
So we have the control and we have the communication and the action plans, and it sounds as though for people who are recently bereaved, it's particularly perhaps a challenging time, but there are some things that they can do to plan ahead and also that day to kind of take control of their environment. Well, that sounds great. I will talk a little bit more about this on our blog and let people know a few of the tips that you shared with us today. And for now, thanks so much for sharing with us all this, Sherry.
You're quite welcome.
Well, good evening, and thank you so much for joining us tonight. There are over 7,800 Catholic schools in the whole United States, but only one, like Cathedral Prep in Elmhurst. It is the last prep seminary of its kind in the whole country, which raises the question, how do you keep an institution like that going and get young boys to think about becoming priests?
Well, last week offered one. And we wish them the best in making those decisions. We do have more on Cathedral Prep at our website. Just visit currentsny.net.
But in the meantime, stay right here with us. We have much more.
Welcome back to Currents. I'm Francesca Maxime.
And I'm Matt McClure. Coming up later, it's World Youth Day time. But no, not in Madrid, right here in Brooklyn. We'll explain.
But first, let's have a look at the day's headlines. President Obama talked about his personal religious beliefs Tuesday in a backyard discussion on the economy with residents of Albuquerque, New Mexico. One woman asked the president, quote, "Why are you a Christian?" Here's what he had to say. The president's faith has been a topic of political discussion for years, but came to the forefront last month when a poll showed nearly 1 in 5 Americans wrongly believed Mr. Obama is a Muslim. When questioned about abortion, the president said the practice should be safe, legal, and rare, and that he believes American families, not the government, should be making those decisions. Along the same lines, the Health and Human Services Department announced today it was awarding $27 million to programs across the country to help pregnant teens and young parents. The administration says this is a follow-up to a statement President Obama made during his controversial speech at Notre Dame last year. In his remarks, he said the government should help reduce unintended pregnancies, make adoptions more available, and care for new mothers. Meantime, a federal appeals court ruled Tuesday that the Obama administration can resume government funding of embryonic stem cell research. The decision means the government can fund the research while the court considers the appeal of an August case that stopped the flow of taxpayer money. White House Press Secretary Robert Gibbs praised the ruling, saying that stem cell research is the pursuit of groundbreaking treatments. But several pro-life groups oppose the funding because they say embryonic stem cell research involves the destruction of embryos. A federal judge in California today temporarily blocked the scheduled execution of convicted murderer Albert Brown. He has been awaiting lethal injection for raping and murdering a 15-year-old girl in 1980. Brown's execution was scheduled for this week. No new date has been set. Meantime, California's Catholic bishops are calling for an end to the death penalty. The bishops said in a statement that while humans can and do commit grievous crimes, they reject the use of the death penalty in all cases, especially when society can be protected by a sentence of life without parole. The death penalty has been in the headlines recently because of high-profile cases in California and Virginia. In the Virginia case, Teresa Lewis, who was found to be borderline mentally retarded, was put to death by lethal injection for arranging the murders of her husband and stepson. Welcome back. Well, sometimes the people who stop by our studio for an interview, they can be a little bit intimidated by being on television, maybe a little self-conscious, and sometimes it can take a little while to draw them out of their shell. Well, that was not the case with Justin Fatica.
No, not at all. You may.
I'm surprised he didn't just like drop and do 30 right there.
I know. You know? He's so boring, Justin Fatica,
yeah,
for something in their lives.
I think what he says is, you know, the first thing is you're amazing, to believe that you're amazing from the inside out. Mm-hmm. And that is what enables you to then do what he also suggests, which is putting God first and then others first and then your second rather and then your, yourself third. But that you really have to have this belief, I think, in yourself that you really do have all this power, that, you know, you become the obstacle sometimes and get in the way of your own success. Yeah. That he's saying, find a way to get that out of the way so you can move forward.
Well, and that joy thing, by the way, Natalia had mentioned in the interview, it's called the Joy Class, and that's the name of it when I was growing up as a kid.
Georgia.
I know. It's a southern thing, I guess. But you can see our other stories about NET.
Stay with us. We will be right back with another look at young people in faith right here in Brooklyn.
Andy Warhol is as misunderstood as he is famous.
Warhol was born in Pittsburgh in 1928 to Eastern European immigrants. Ill as a child, he became close to his mother and spent much of his time recuperating in bed, drawing. From these humble beginnings came one of the most renowned artists of the past century. Primarily remembered for his contribution to the 1960s movement known as pop art, he had a reputation for living on the wild side.
He's on television, he's in the nightclubs, he's doing Interview magazine, he's making movies, he's hobnobbing with the rich, the famous, the stars of his age. He also had a completely different side of his life that was unknown to almost everyone except a very few close confidants. He didn't like to be touched. He was afraid around large numbers of people, and he practiced the Catholic faith.
More precisely, the Byzantine Catholic faith, an integral part of his upbringing.
He would, walk down the street and pop into the St. Vincent Ferrard Church in the high 60s or whatever it was, I can't remember. But I would wait outside. He would go in, he'd come back out, and we'd continue walking.
He also practiced his faith outside the church, often giving up Thanksgivings to volunteer in soup kitchens.
When he first moved to New York and he was living with his mother, they had an altar in their home.
But this was not revealed until John Richardson read his eulogy at the memorial service. And he said the key to Andy Warhol's psyche is his religious side.
This emphasis is evidenced in his obsession with iconography, influenced in part by the repetition of religious icons featured so prominently in the Byzantine church of his childhood.
This show begins at a very important moment in his life. He turns 50. It was also exactly 10 years after the assassination attempt. And Warhol started to think about what was going to be his future, what was going to be his legacy. He went back into the studio and he went back to painting.
We sort of begin to see Warhol sort of thinking about his career, but there's also very much a sort of reflection on death.
The Last Supper project was very important to him. I mean, it was a commission project, but through the art dealer Alexander Yolas. But he wouldn't have taken on the commission if he didn't think it was really important.
Warhol produced more than 100 works in that series, and in fact was still working on that series when he died.
Even to find the right Last Supper image was a fascinating thing, because he was a great editor and he was looking for the right, reproductions.
The right reproduction repeated 112 times. Also critical, his juxtaposition of images, almost casually casting a price tag alongside an image of Jesus Christ.
Pop irony always makes you skeptical of the degree of sincerity, but his daily votive, he kept an icon over his bed and a cross on his bedstand and was known to pray every day.
People will really get more of that personal side of Warhol's work when they see this show. And I think there'll be a lot of discoveries in what people will see.
He was a visionary. He saw the future. And he died prematurely, at the young age of 58.
We are our own walking reconciliation of our own inherent contradictions. Andy Warhol embraced his contradictions in his public and private life, and you see it come out in the artwork.